AITA for cutting her off 8 years after our breakup when she came back for my money? My name is Kevin, 32 years old. Earlier this year, my girlfriend of 8 years literally blew up our entire relationship. 8 years stolen. I was planning to marry her. Nicole, 31, did not even have the decency to pick a fight or set the stage. No. She came home from her sister's on a Thursday night, sat on the couch we bought together 3 years ago, and dropped it on me. I don't love you anymore. It has been a while, that is all. She said it the way someone mentions they are switching to oat milk, as if she had moved on months ago. I sat there in shock. My glass hovered halfway to my mouth, trying to understand what had just happened. I asked her if I had done something wrong, if there was another man, if she wanted to try therapy, anything. She simply shook her head with a dismissive look and said no, I hadn't done anything wrong. She had just outgrown the relationship and needed to find herself. I have never felt so blindsided in my entire life. Truly, we were not perfect, but we were good. At least, that is what I thought. I loved this woman. I had built my entire adult life around her. Damn it. I had been supporting her financially for 6 years, ever since she decided that corporate life wasn't fulfilling for her soul and quit her marketing job. And that was fine with me because I loved her and I genuinely believed we were building something together. Apparently, I was the only one who believed it. My best friend Scott had warned me about a year ago when Nicole got really into Instagram, posting cryptic quotes about knowing her worth and not settling. He had pulled me aside at a barbecue and told me, "Brother, I am just saying, keep your eyes open." I had ignored him, telling him he was paranoid. I should have listened. So there I was sitting across from this woman with whom I had spent years, watching her act like she was doing me a favor by ending our story. She was calm, almost relieved, as if she had been carrying this decision for months and was happy to get rid of it. Finally, I asked her one last time if this was really what she wanted, if there was anything I could do. She nodded and said, "Yes, this is what I want. I need space to grow." I was paying for everything in her life, and she needed space to grow. At that moment, I realized there was nothing left to say. I wasn't going to beg someone to stay if they didn't want to be there. That is not how I operate. So, I told her clearly to pack her suitcase and go to her sister Emily's. I needed time to think, and I couldn't do it with her sitting there acting like we had just decided to try a new restaurant. She did not like that at all. Her whole calm attitude cracked, and she asked why it should be her who had to leave. She said it was her house too. I reminded her that she was the one ending the relationship, not me. Then I asked for her house key. That is when she exploded. She started saying I was aggressive and controlling, but after a few exchanges, she ended up throwing the key on the table. Watching her pack her suitcase was surreal. 8 years together, and she had a suitcase ready in 20 minutes. Before leaving, she turned to me and said, "I hope you can be mature about this." I just looked at her, then she left without another word. That night, I sat in the living room on FaceTime with Scott. He didn't say "I told you so," but I could read it on his face. "What are you going to do?" he asked me. I looked around at all her stuff everywhere. "I am going to take my life back," I replied. Scott raised his glass to the screen. "It was time, brother." I barely slept that night. I replayed everything in a loop, trying to understand where it had gone wrong. I had given her 8 years of my life, financial support, the freedom to find herself without worrying about bills or rent. And yet, it still wasn't enough. The next morning, I woke up in an empty house. I knew I had to act, but first I needed coffee and then a plan. Around noon, my phone rang. Nicole. I almost ignored the call, but maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe she finally wanted to talk like an adult. I picked up. "Hi," she said casually. I kept my voice neutral. "What is up? I just wanted to check on you, see how you were doing." Check on me as if she hadn't destroyed my life less than 24 hours earlier. "You wanted to check on me," I repeated slowly. "Yes, I know it is hard for you, but I think we can still be friends someday." This woman had just ended an 8-year relationship and was already planning our friendship arc. I had to ask, "Are you really sure about this, about breaking up?" "Yes," she replied without hesitation. "It is what I need right now for me." That is when I decided to get practical. "Okay," I said. "So, I need to handle some logistical things." "What do you mean?" she asked, suddenly much less relaxed. I explained it to her. I was removing her from my car insurance. I had my pickup, but the sedan she drove every day was in my name. I was also canceling the phone line in my name, and I was closing the joint account where my salary was deposited. It wasn't revenge, it was just common sense. We were no longer together. So why would I continue to pay for everything? What? Are you serious right now? Her voice went up 3 octaves. Yes, I am serious. Why would I continue to pay for your things when you just broke up with me? Because you are not a child, she yelled. My God, I knew you would make this difficult. You are so petty. It is not petty, I replied calmly. It is reality. You cannot expect me to continue supporting your financial needs when you decided not to be with me anymore. She exploded, started shouting that I was trying to punish her because she was leaving me, that I was vindictive and cruel, that she had sacrificed so much for our relationship, and that this was how I treated her. I reminded her that her main sacrifice had been quitting her job 6 years ago to find herself and then living off me ever since. She didn't like that. She called me a jerk and hung up. In the days that followed, I really put everything in motion. First stop, the insurance company. I removed her from my policy. Then I went to the phone store to cancel her line, then to the bank to close the joint account. I had already transferred my salary to my personal account, and the bank allowed either holder to close a joint account. Each step felt like taking back a piece of my life. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with her messages, long blocks of text about how heartless I was, about the fact that I was making her life impossible. One message said, "You are literally leaving me with nothing. How am I supposed to survive?" I didn't reply. Through my buddy Scott, I learned she was staying at her sister Emily's and that she was completely losing it. Emily was apparently entirely on Nicole's side, telling her I was abusive because I cut off financial support. According to Emily, I was a narcissist because I didn't continue to support Nicole after the breakup. The nerve of these women. Nicole had started applying for jobs, but after 6 years out of the job market, no one was calling her back. Her resume was literally a crime scene. A week after the breakup, she called back, this time from Emily's phone. I almost didn't answer, but decided to get it over with. "I need to talk to you about the car," she said. "No hello. Straight to the point." "About what?" "You need to let me have it just until I get back on my feet and save up to buy one of my own." I laughed out loud. "You want me to let you use my car?" "You have your pickup," she said, as if that made it reasonable. "You don't need both. I need to get around for interviews. So, take an Uber." "Are you kidding me right now? Do you know how much that costs?" "Not my problem," I replied. "You wanted to end the relationship. You wanted your independence." "Well, independence means you handle your own transportation." "You really are a jerk," she hissed. "I can't believe I wasted 8 years with someone so heartless." "You didn't waste anything. You enjoyed a free ride for 6 of those years. Now the ride is over." She hung up on me. Once again, by the end of that week, I had cut all the financial ties that bound us. The car was mine, the phone was cut, the bank account was closed. Scott stopped by that weekend. We sat on my back patio. "How are you feeling?" he asked me. I thought about it. "Free." He nodded. "Good. That is exactly how you should feel. Now let's do this." About 10 days after the breakup, Nicole texted me saying she needed to come pick up the rest of her stuff. I wasn't thrilled to see her again, but I wanted her stuff out of my house. So I agreed and told her to come by Saturday afternoon. She arrived at 2 p.m. with Emily for moral support. Emily shot me a look full of disgust when I opened the door, as if I were something stuck to her shoe. "Kevin," she said coldly. I just nodded and stepped aside to let them in. I left the door open and stayed in the living room to avoid any drama like he locked me out. Nicole walked past me without a word and headed straight for the bedroom. I could hear drawers opening and closing. Emily stayed in the living room, arms crossed, staring at me as if she were my prison guard. "You know you are handling this very poorly," she said after a minute. "Oh really?" "Yes. Nicole is really struggling right now, and you are only making things worse. She is the one who broke up, Emily, not me. That doesn't give you the right to be cruel." I just looked at her. The mental gymnastics she was performing could win gold medals. "I am not cruel. I simply no longer finance her lifestyle." "You are a complete jerk," said Emily before heading to the bedroom to help Nicole pack. I stayed in the living room scrolling through my phone waiting for it to be over. After half an hour, Nicole came out pulling a suitcase and carrying my laptop under her arm. "My laptop." "Hey, what are you doing with that?" I asked, standing up. "I am taking it," she replied as if it were obvious. "I use it all the time for applications. It is mine. I was the one who bought it." "You have your work computer," she retorted. "You don't need this one. Whether I need it or not changes nothing. It is mine. Put it back. Emily stepped between us. Oh my God. Kevin, just let her have the computer. You are ridiculous. I am ridiculous. I looked at Emily. Then Nicole. You are literally trying to steal my things, and I am the ridiculous one. It is not theft, said Nicole, raising her voice. We were together for 8 years. These things are practically community property. No, I replied. I paid for them with my money, so they are mine. That is when I noticed the suitcase was way too full. I walked over and opened it before she could stop me. Unsurprisingly, it was filled with items that didn't belong to her: my wireless headphones, the nice kitchen knife set I had bought the previous year, my Nintendo Switch, and the games. A designer watch my parents had given me for my 30th birthday, and even some of my clothes. I started taking the items out one by one. You want to explain this? Nicole's face turned red. Those are things I gave you. You gave me my watch that my parents bought me. Impressive. I am talking about the other things. The headphones bought on Amazon, the knives from Williams-Sonoma, my game console. I held up a hoodie. My college hoodie from a university where you didn't even study. Emily intervened. She uses those things all the time. Are you really going to fight over every little item? Yes, Emily, because they don't belong to her. Nicole started crying as expected. The waterworks started, followed by a long speech about how heartless I was. How after 8 years together, I was arguing over a few items. How she couldn't believe how much I had changed. I stood there, my watch and headphones in hand, feeling nothing. You can take your stuff, but everything else stays here. You are incredible, said Emily. She is right. You have changed. The old Kevin would have never acted like this. The old Kevin was an idiot, I replied, and that version is retired. Nicole looked at Emily with a theatrical expression of a wounded victim, then looked at me again. I hope you are proud of yourself, she said through her tears. I am getting there, I replied. They spent another 20 minutes repacking the suitcase, this time only with the things that truly belonged to her. The whole time, Emily was dropping snide comments under her breath about my so-called pettiness. When they finally left, Emily turned back at the doorstep. You know what? You deserve to be alone. Then they left. I stood there for a minute. Then I burst out laughing. Scott was right. I should have done this years ago. That evening, Nicole sent me a novel by text. 5 paragraphs explaining how I had shown my true colors, how vindictive I was, how she had given me the best years of her life, and how I was thanking her this way. I read it all. Then I replied simply okay, nothing more. Scott found it hilarious when I showed him. In the days that followed, I boxed up the rest of the stuff she had left behind. Some toiletries, a few books, a pair of shoes. I put everything in a box and left it in the garage. If she wanted to get anything, she could arrange with Scott to come pick it up when I wasn't home. I was done with face-to-face confrontations. Through the grapevine, I learned she was complaining to anyone who would listen, saying I had abused her by cutting off her funds, that I was making her life impossible. Emily was apparently backing up her every word, telling people I had been financially controlling during our relationship and that I was punishing her now because she left. The narrative she was building was impressive. They had made me into some kind of villain simply because I didn't want to keep paying for my ex-girlfriend's life after she left me. But I didn't care what story she told. The people who really knew me knew the truth, and that was enough for me. 2 weeks after the suitcase incident, my phone rang late on a Tuesday night. Unknown number. I stared at the screen for a minute, then picked up. Yes, it was Nicole. I need help, she said. Her voice was shaking, almost panicked. I remained silent for a few seconds. What for? I applied to 50 places and nothing. No one calls me back. She paused. I don't know what to do. That is tough, I replied, keeping a neutral tone. But I don't see what you expect from me. You could help me, she said, her voice harder. I gave up my career for you, for us. The least you could do is help me get back on my feet. And there it was. You didn't give up your career for me, I said slowly. You quit your job 6 years ago because you said you couldn't be creative in a corporate environment. Those were your exact words. I quit my job because you said you would support me, and I supported you for 6 years while you figured out what you wanted to do with your life. Now, it is up to you to take charge of yourself. She started crying, explaining how hard everything was, that her sister was pressuring her to find a job and contribute to the bills, that she was sleeping on Emily's couch and had no money for anything. I have nothing left, she sobbed. I am sorry you are struggling, but it is no longer my responsibility. So that is it. Her voice went from tears to anger in a second. 8 years together. And you are just going to watch me suffer. You are the one who made this choice, Nicole. Not me. You cannot come back now crying asking for help. She then started screaming, insulting me, saying I never really loved her, that she couldn't believe she had wasted 8 years with someone so heartless and selfish. I let her vent for about 30 seconds, then I cut her off. Is that good? Are you done? Go to hell, Kevin, she hissed before hanging up. The following week, my phone was flooded with messages. At first, they were emotional, full of regrets and apologies, but since I wasn't answering, the tone completely changed. The messages became bitter. I was heartless, cruel, narcissistic, and abuser. She said I was destroying her life on purpose and that karma would eventually catch up with me. The irony. I showed them to Scott one evening over a meal. He read them and then simply shook his head. Brother, this is crazy behavior. Yeah, you aren't going to reply, right? No. Good choice. Through our mutual friend Jason, I started hearing even more details about what was happening with Nicole. Emily had apparently given her an ultimatum: find a job and start paying rent and bills within 3 weeks or leave. Nicole was panicking, applying everywhere she could, but after 6 years out of the job market, her resume was practically radioactive. Jason told me she had completely broken down at a friend's birthday. She started crying at the table, saying she had ruined her life and that everything was so unfair. Her friend tried to comfort her, but Nicole kept saying I was destroying her future by cutting off the funds. Her victim mentality was mind-blowing. One evening, about 3 weeks after our last call, I was at home watching a game when someone knocked on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I looked out the window. It was her. She looked exhausted, messy hair, swollen eyes, and sweatpants and an old t-shirt that looked like she slept in it. I opened the door without inviting her in. What do you want? I need to talk to you, she said, her voice trembling. Please. I stood still for a second, then I stepped aside. She came in and sat on the edge of the couch, her hands shaking. I can't do it anymore, she said. I tried everything, but I can't find a job. No one wants to hire me. Emily is about to kick me out. I have nowhere to go. I waited, knowing what was coming next. I made a mistake, Kevin, a huge mistake. I thought I wanted something different, but I was wrong. I miss what we had. I miss you. I still love you. Those words hung in the air, but instead of feeling something, I just felt tired. You don't love me, I said. You love the fact that you don't have to work or worry about bills. It is not the same thing. That is not true, she insisted, the tears returning. I really miss you. I miss us. Nicole, you told me you didn't love me anymore. You said you had outgrown the relationship. You were the one who ended everything, and now you want to come back because reality hit you and you realized how good you had it before. I can change, she said desperately. I will find a job. I will contribute. I will do whatever you want. I stood up. I don't want anything from you. I am done. You made your choice, and now you have to deal with the consequences. She started begging, saying she would do anything to fix things, that she had made a terrible mistake and deserved a second chance. But I wasn't interested anymore. I had given her 8 years. That was enough. You need to leave, I said, going to open the door. She sat there for a moment, tears streaming down her face. When she realized I wouldn't change my mind, she got up and walked to the door. As she passed me, she stopped. I hope you find someone who deserves you, she said softly. I am already working on it, I replied. Then she left. Once the door closed, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time since the breakup, I truly felt like I had turned the page. After that last conversation with Nicole, I knew it was definitely over. She had come crawling back, hoping to regain the comfortable life I had offered her, but I wasn't that man anymore. A few days later, Scott texted me to say that Emily had finally kicked Nicole out. She had far exceeded the deadline to find a job and had been taking advantage of the situation for over a month. Emily reportedly gave her a little money and told her to figure it out. I learned from Jason that Nicole had found a small part-time job in a coffee shop, minimum wage plus tips. She was living in a studio apartment in a sketchy neighborhood. Jason said mutual friends had seen her and she looked really in bad shape. But here's the thing. I didn't feel bad. Not for a second. Around the same time, I started seeing someone else. Her name is Sophie, and I met her through Scott's girlfriend, Amanda, at a casual get-together. At first, I didn't know if I was ready to date anyone. The whole thing with Nicole had made me pretty cynical about relationships. But Sophie was different from the start. She is 29, works as a civil engineer, owns her own apartment, drives a car she bought herself. She is smart, funny, and she really has her life together. Being with Sophie was like breathing fresh air after staying in a stuffy room for years. She had goals, ambitions. She wasn't looking for someone to fund her journey of self-discovery. When I told her about Nicole and the whole breakup, she was shocked. "You supported her for 6 years?" she asked. "Fully supported. Yes, everything." Sophie shook her head. "That is crazy. I can't imagine not working." "I would go crazy." "That is because you are a functional adult," I said, laughing. Things with Sophie moved at a healthy pace. No drama, just two people getting to know each other and seeing where it goes. Scott approved immediately. "Brother, this one is the right one." And he was right. Then about 2 months into my relationship with Sophie, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a long text full of emotional rambling. I scrolled to the bottom and saw it was signed Nicole. She had apparently changed her number. The message was the same old song. She was struggling, barely had enough to pay her rent. She had made a huge mistake leaving me. Could I consider letting her come back to live at my place just temporarily while she got back on her feet? She had even added that she was happy I had moved on with Sophie, as if she wasn't trying to get back with me in the same message. I showed it to Sophie. We were having dinner at my place when the message arrived. "What are you going to do?" she asked me. "Nothing. I am not even replying." A few days later, Sophie and I were barbecuing in the backyard when someone knocked on the front door. We weren't expecting anyone. I walked through the house and looked out the window. Nicole, obviously. I opened the door, but without stepping aside to let her in. "What are you doing here?" "I sent you a message," she said. "You didn't answer." It was intentional. She looked behind me and saw Sophie in the living room. Her expression went from despair to bitterness in 2 seconds. "So that is her," she said coldly. "What do you want, Nicole?" She looked at me again, eyes full of tears. "Right on cue. I need to talk to you. In private. There is nothing to discuss in private. Say what you have to say or leave." She glanced at Sophie, then back at me. "Okay. I need help. I can barely survive. My job doesn't pay enough. I am behind on my rent. I don't know what to do anymore. Get a second job. Figure it out. You aren't serious, right?" "I am completely serious." Her tears turned into anger. "You don't care at all, huh? After everything we went through together, you are just going to watch me struggle without doing anything." "Nicole, I am no longer your boyfriend. I am not responsible for your life. You established that very clearly when you broke up." She looked at Sophie again. "So you already replaced me. That was fast." "No, I moved on." Sophie walked over and stood next to me. "Listen, Nicole, I don't know you, but it sounds like you were trying to put your problems on Kevin. That isn't really fair." Nicole's eyes went wide. "Are you serious right now? You have known him for 5 minutes. You know nothing about our relationship." "I know he supported you for 6 years, and you left him," Sophie replied calmly. "And now you are coming back because it didn't go the way you planned." Nicole looked at us one by one, face red. "You are both horrible people. You deserve each other." "Thank you," I said. Then I closed the door. I literally closed it in the middle of her tirade. Sophie and I stood there for a second, hearing Nicole yell something behind the door, then footsteps, then nothing. "Well, that was nice," said Sophie. "Welcome to my life," I smiled. I am not so easy to scare off. That evening, Scott called me laughing. Apparently, Nicole had texted Emily right after leaving my place. Emily had then written to a mutual friend to rant about me and Sophie. Their new version of the story said that Sophie and I had been having an affair for a long time, and that was why Nicole had broken up. The new script was impressive, but I didn't care. My life was better than it had been in years. I had a woman who actually contributed to the relationship. Nicole could tell whatever she wanted. I was done playing a role in her narrative. About 3 months after this second confrontation at my place, I had practically forgotten Nicole existed. Life with Sophie was great. We had taken a trip to Colorado, met each other's families, and started talking about moving in together someday. Scott and his girlfriend Amanda had become good friends with Sophie. My life had completely changed. Then one evening, Scott called with news. "Brother, you aren't going to believe what happened to Nicole." "I kind of don't care what happens to Nicole," I said. But I was curious. "Trust me, you want to hear this." Apparently, Nicole had started dating someone new about a month after her second visit to my place. A guy named Nathan she flaunted everywhere on Instagram. Designer clothes, expensive watch collection, photos in front of luxury cars, the whole package. She must have thought she hit the jackpot. Except Nathan was absolutely not who he claimed to be. At first, everything seemed perfect from the outside. He showered her with gifts, took her to expensive restaurants, took her to Miami and Las Vegas for weekends. She posted about it all the time. Emily was fully supporting her in the comments. But here's the best part. Nathan was completely broke. The designer clothes, fakes or rentals. The cars, leased or borrowed from friends for photos. The trips funded by maxed-out credit cards and personal loans. The watch collection totally fake. The guy was running a real large-scale fraud. Scott's girlfriend, Amanda, had stayed vaguely in touch with Emily, who loved bragging about Nicole's current success. Then little by little, the story started to change. Nathan began asking Nicole for money. Small amounts at first, $100 here, $50 there. He invented stories like his money was tied up in investments or he was waiting for a big deal to close. Then it got worse. He convinced her to open a credit card in her name, telling her they could use it together to build their future. She fell for it, opened a card with a $10,000 limit and gave it to him. In 3 weeks, she was maxed out. He told her not to worry, that he would pay it back once his deal closed. Except the deal never closed because there never was a deal. Nathan was a professional parasite who preyed on desperate women looking for a provider, and Nicole had painted a target on her back herself by constantly posting that she wanted a high-value man matching her energy. But it is not over. Yes, Nathan had friends, shady guys who started coming over all the time to squat in Nicole's apartment, borrowing money, using her car, eating her food, treating her place like a halfway house. She tried to keep up with their lifestyle thinking it would eventually pay off, but the debts just kept piling up. Then one day, Nathan vanished overnight. Phones cut, social media deleted, vanished into thin air. He left her with a maxed-out credit card, his friends still squatting in her apartment, and some very angry people looking for him. It turned out Nathan's friends weren't just freeloaders. They were the kind of people who lend money with very serious interest. And when Nathan disappeared, they came to collect what was owed. Jason called me one evening to tell me the rest. Apparently, 2 guys showed up at Nicole's apartment looking for Nathan. When she told them he was gone and she didn't know where he was, they told her it didn't matter. She had lived with him, benefited from the money. To them, she was just as responsible. They told her she had 2 weeks to find $5,000. Otherwise, there would be consequences. She panicked and called Emily, who told her to call the police. But Nicole was scared. These weren't the kind of guys you call the cops on without risking making things worse. She tried calling Nathan from different numbers, went to his last known address, asked his friends where he had gone. No one knew anything or no one wanted to talk. She found herself completely alone shouldering the whole mess. When I learned all this, I felt a mix of emotions. A part of me felt bad because no one deserves to get scammed or threatened. But another part of me couldn't help thinking that this is exactly what happens when you spend your life looking for someone else to solve your problems. She wanted an easy life, someone to fund her lifestyle without having to work. And that is exactly what she found with Nathan. Except this time, she ran into someone who saw her the way she had seen me, a resource to exploit. The karma was almost poetic, but it wasn't over. What happened next was even worse. The situation with Nathan got worse before it got better. Much worse. According to Jason, Nicole ended up having to sell most of her stuff to raise money and pay the guys Nathan owed money to. The designer bags Nathan had given her, counterfeits worth barely $50 apiece. The jewelry, fake. Everything he had given her was worthless. She sold her TV, her laptop, her furniture, everything that had a little value. She even had to pawn items her parents had given her to get about $300 in total. She managed to negotiate with Nathan's friends to give them $3,000 immediately and pay the rest in installments. They accepted, but were very clear on what would happen if she didn't respect the payments. She had to take a second job chaining double shifts between the coffee shop and a waitress job in the evening. Her Instagram went from nightclubs to total silence. Emily had stopped posting supportive comments. Apparently, even she was starting to get fed up with the constant crises. But the real final blow, the credit card company sued her for the maximum balance left by Nathan. She tried to plead fraud, but the account was in her name, and she had given him access voluntarily. Legally, it all fell on her. She had to set up a repayment plan that would take her years. A few months passed after that, enough for the Nathan affair to completely finish collapsing and become just background noise. Meanwhile, I was thriving completely. After several months of relationship, Sophie and I decided to live together. She put her apartment up for sale, sold it, and a few weeks later, we bought a house together and moved in. 50-50 partners, joint account where we contribute equally. Shared bills, shared responsibilities. I felt like I was experiencing for the first time what a real adult relationship is supposed to look like. Scott and Amanda got engaged. They asked Sophie and me to be part of the wedding party. My career was doing well. Life was sincerely beautiful. About 4 months after the implosion of the Nathan story, I was in a sports bar with Scott and some friends watching a game when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around. It was Nicole. "Kevin, can we talk?" Scott stood up immediately. "No, it's okay. I am good," I said to Scott. Then to Nicole, "You have 2 minutes." She looked at my friends around us, then me. "I just wanted to tell you I am sorry for everything. You were right about everything." "Okay," I replied without adding anything. "I made so many mistakes. I just wanted you to know that I realize it now." "Okay. Is that it?" She looked frustrated. "Is that all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Nicole? I thought you would want to know that I understood what I lost." "I don't care what you realize," I replied coldly. "You lost something good because you took it for granted. That is your problem. I don't want to be your shoulder to cry on." "I am not asking you that," she said, her voice lying. "I am just trying to apologize." "Perfect. Apology accepted. Anything else?" She stood there for a moment as if she wanted to add something. Then her gaze slid behind me, and I saw her expression change. I turned around. Sophie had just walked in with Amanda. They had been shopping and were joining us to eat. Sophie walked over and kissed me. "Hi, my love." Then she looked at Nicole. "Oh, hi, Nicole." Nicole's whole attitude changed. "Sophie, great. We were just finishing," I said to Sophie, then to Nicole. "Was there anything else?" "Yes, actually," said Nicole, that bitterness returning to her voice. "How long were you two together before dating?" "Just out of curiosity." Sophie laughed. "We met months after your breakup, but I am sure you already invented the story that makes you feel better." "I bet Kevin filled your head with stuff about me." "Actually, he barely talks about you," replied Sophie. "You aren't really relevant in our life." Nicole's face turned red. "You know what? You are perfect for each other. You are both cold jerks." "We prefer the term having boundaries," said Sophie. "But jerks if that helps you." Scott was trying not to laugh. Amanda was smiling broadly. Nicole looked at the four of us. "This was a mistake," she said. "I should have guessed I couldn't expect anything from you." "Probably," I replied. "You should also stop expecting things from people in general. That is visibly your real problem." "Go to hell, Kevin. I hope you know you destroyed me." "No," I said. "You destroyed yourself." She stood there a few seconds longer, eyes moist, clearly hoping for an emotional reaction from me. But it was over. "Take care of yourself, Nicole," I said. She turned around and walked out of the bar. Emily was apparently waiting for her outside. Through the window, I saw them talking. Emily gesturing, Nicole crying. Then they got into Emily's car and left. I sat back down. Scott raised his glass. "Brother, you dodged a bullet." We spent the rest of the evening eating, laughing, and celebrating Scott's engagement. I thought back to where I was a year ago, sitting in an empty house, wondering what I had done wrong. And now look at me. New house, amazing girlfriend, real happiness. All because I finally prioritized myself. So yes, I am doing very well. And Nicole, she made her choices. She will have to live with them. Comment. Watching a situation like this unfold really highlights how crucial it is to value your peace of mind above everything else. Setting firm boundaries isn't about being cruel or vindictive, but about having enough self-respect to say no when lines are crossed. We often forget that real love includes accountability, and sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their own choices. It's easy to get trapped in guilt when you walk away, yet true healing begins the moment you stop saving others at the expense of your well-being. A healthy relationship should feel like a partnership where both people contribute, not a one-sided struggle to keep the ship afloat. Remember that you're worthy of a connection that brings stability and joy into your life, not constant chaos or drama. Don't be afraid to close a door that leads nowhere, because that's often the only way to open one that leads exactly where you need to be. Prioritizing yourself isn't selfishness, but a necessary step toward building a life you can genuinely be proud of. Trust your instincts, protect your energy, and choose the path that brings you real peace. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.